Welcome, everyone, to episode 4 of Meet with Cheese Metaverse Interviews. I'm your host, LeDrop WithCheese, coming to you live from the Metaverse. Today, I have a very special guest for you. His name is Jamil Hasan. He is a global data thought leader, a Gen X author, and a buddy of mine now in the space. Everybody, please meet Jamil Hassan. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, and that's one of the best intros I've ever gotten. So that's great, and I love the glasses, and it looks like you're in a giant metaversal tent or wherever you are. It's awesome.
Yeah, I would love to say that I'm like in a tent in the backyard or something, but this is the bar in my house that I built out to make Metaverse. So
Very
yeah, thank
cool.
you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. You're one of the most fascinating people I've met in this industry, and I just think everyone needs to know about what you've been doing, what you are doing, hear about the new book you have coming out.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into this world of blockchain.
Well, my background is anything but fascinating and interesting. I worked at AIG for 12 years. I worked in databases for 20 and also built operations and finance and technology departments and managed projects and stuff, corporate, all the boring corporate stuff. And then my company put me in charge of me and another colleague in charge of building the CCAR platform, which was to comply with Dodd-Frank. And I saw all kinds of crazy things going on, only in my company, but all over the country, where all the Fortune 1000 companies were laying off employees. And I'm like, oh, we hope we don't get laid off. And AIG had like many rounds of layoffs. Like I think I survived the first 9 quarterly cuts, and the 10th quarterly cut I didn't. And then at that time, that was June 2017. I met a really odd guy on LinkedIn, and he was like, "You ever hear of Bitcoin?" I'm like, "I heard of it." So well, I could teach you Bitcoin. I could teach you Bitcoin. I could talk to you all week long, and then you come out and see what I do. I'm like, okay. So I listened to him talk to me, for like 5 hours a day for 5 days in a row. And then I went out to Vegas. I went to the Hotel D. He had put Bitcoin mining equipment in slot machines in that hotel. And he showed me how he was mining Bitcoin by pulling the slot machine lever. And I was like, this is really cool. So we had steak, we went down Fremont Street, he showed me all kinds of, we had chicken and waffles at this awesome place. But I got into Bitcoin then, and bought my first fraction of a Bitcoin. And, that was cool. And then I got more interested in the space, and I read some books. What do you call it? The Business Blockchain by William Malgier, and some others. And started a war games, even though the industry wasn't ready for it. It's 5 or 6 years, too early. And made some friends, and then was in the Bitcoin. I was in the Bitcoin ecosystem in the beginning, and it was wild. It was the Wild West. They say crypto was a Wild West. Back then, 2017, it was wild, wild, Wild West. So and then from there, what do you call it? My dad passed away in September 2017, and the next day, I was on a panel talking about, like, Jamie Dimon had said that Bitcoin is a fraud, and I was on a panel and I was talking, and I was in shock. I had no idea what I was saying. But then 3 years later, the host called me up and said, "You know what you said?" I said, "I have no idea what I said." Well, what I said was so impactful. It helped a young lady who was in Pakistan and was abducted by the Taliban, fight back against the Taliban and leave, and empowered her and a community of women. So I must have said there was something important. So I stuck around in crypto since then.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I'm sorry about the loss of your father. I lost my dad too, 2011 in December. So I know the feeling, man. Um, but yeah, such an inspiring story. Just that your words that are inherent to who you are as a person, you don't even remember what you were saying, but just to the core of whatever was coming out that was highly emotional. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on this episode here, because an outstanding human, first and foremost, and then kind of are now all in on the blockchain.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually just ordered your book today. I meant to do it months ago.
Okay.
I started with the first one, Blockchain Ethics, A Bridge to Abundance.
Hmm.
So what is that book about? Just kind of a quick synopsis for the
Sure.
viewer.
In 2017 was the ICO craze, right? And I was an ICO advisor, and at that time I was one of like the five U.S. ICO advisors. And that was when the ETH just got started, right? It was crazy. So I think I read about 5,000 white papers back then, and then I advised a bunch of companies from all over the world. And one was Asset Token. I wrote about them, and then other projects that I was with. And then also, I wanted to give the newbie an intro what Bitcoin is. So you'll see some what Bitcoin is stuff, and you'll see some project stuff that's intertwined in that book. But it was really the only book I believe that's been written that has captured the ICO era. So you'll get a sense of what that was like. I did kind of well during the ICO days. I had a consulting company and I had a press release company. And from October until March, I did really well. And I put out the book. And then April came. and everything I had made for half a year, I lost. It was crypto winter. And, I lost my Jets season tickets. I lost my bicycle I had for 25 years. I lost most stuff. And, and by the end of 2018, I had suffered 2 heart attacks. So 2018 was brutal. Now 2022 is kind of similar in that regard. The bear market in crypto is brutal. But that first book, you'll get an idea and a sense of what the ICO days were like.
Awesome. Yes, I'm really looking forward to reading that. And now that I've gotten to know you a little bit, hearing it through your words is going to definitely be impactful for me, kind of learning about that era, because I got in later than that. And then after that, you wrote additional books. One of them was Regeneration X, how we Generation X can leverage blockchain technology to save ourselves and rebuild America.
Yeah.
Powerful statement right there. Tell us a little bit about what this book is about.
Sure. Well, I said that, I noticed a lot of freaky things happening with Dodd-Frank. And one of the things were layoffs that were not reported that went under the table. And then, people older than me, people who I used to teach what data was at AIG, people from the boomer era were coming in the door and saying, hey, data's new. Hire me to be your CEO and CFO. And guess what? They were hired. And I was there for 20 years building databases, and I couldn't even get an interview. And I'm like, all right, this ain't right. These people later on received the most of the bailout money from the Fed when they printed it. But that's neither here nor there. I said, okay. So I was following Dodd-Frank for years and saying, you know what? A lot of my Generation X, were sidelined. We were the ones who were laid off. Replaced by younger workers, replaced by younger millennials or Gen Z workers in corporate America who were cheaper. And people with talent, skills, like me, were sidelined and not able to get back in. So where can we apply our abilities and talents and skills? Well, blockchain, because I've been blockchain for 2 years, and that's a blockchain. It's obvious, it's evident, not just Bitcoin as the financial revolution, but all the other level ones, Ethereum and their roll-ups, and Polkadot and their roll-ups, and now Solana and whatever the coins are that are level ones that people are building on. We can build and we can rebuild our careers and not only invest but like actually build businesses. So I said this was the impact of Dodd-Frank, and this was the impact on what happened. It also said this is the impact of the CARES Act. And this is what could happen. Oh, by the way, it has. And these are the PPP loans that were given out to businesses. A lot of them didn't need the money, but a lot of them did. And these are the areas that can be built upon, like medical, health, technology, manufacturing. And they were. That was the money that was used for that. And this is how certain cryptos and ecosystems can be built along lines of what that money was given out for. So that's how the book parallels, and I published that in September 2020. And it was not an easy process, and I can get into that later. But it required a lot of research, and so I published that, and then that was a time where towards the end of that year, 2019, where countries were devaluing their currencies, and so a lot of things happened in line with what I wrote about.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. Yes, I'm gonna have to order that one as well. I did get the Kindle membership, so I should just be able to zip through all of them
Yep.
very here. So how do you think we're doing since 2018 when you wrote Blockchain Ethics? Are we, seeing abundance? Have you seen abundant projects and good use cases of the blockchain?
I've seen a lot of things. Yeah, I was the guy who wrote about blockchain ethics, and I was immediately the guy labeled as a scammer. And everybody else's favorite influencer were the ones who scam people. So I don't know how people look at what I do, but my next book's going to be, it's not going to be on blockchain ethics. It's going to be based on the some of the interviews I did as a podcast host. How are we doing? The jury's still out. There's been incredible projects. There's been through the whole entire CeFi bankruptcy thing that's going on right now with a bunch of companies, and the contagion that hit the market, and decentralized finance has worked. NFTs have worked really well. The metaverse is growing. I mean, there's still a lot. I still see it as a long tail project. There's a long way to go, but the start is there and it's gaining momentum. So a few things have worked really well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is the top of the first inning in a 9-inning ball game. We're still just tip of the iceberg there. So
Yep.
yes, the future is bright, definitely. And of course, any industry is going to have those scammers and people trying to make a quick buck and not embrace the actual potential that the metaverse and Web3 and blockchain technology all have on our whole society, and how we can improve the betterment of humanity through this technology, which is what kind of hooked me, as I figured that out kind of early in my journey into Web3.
Yeah. Web3 and the metaverse are going to cause breakthroughs and impact in the area of security and also identity. And they're going to be game changers. And once we figure that out, then it'll be the real impact. You'll see a real social impact.
Yeah, and for the time being, we have a bear market and companies are going bankrupt, and there's obviously a lot of inherent risk when it comes to investing in crypto. And I know that you have been kind of on the short end of the stick a handful of times, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh God. Okay. This is where I think I can help people. And I'm actually sitting through a certification program right now to be a FINRA listed certified digital advisor. And my area of expertise is getting, let's say, having the boat taken and being left with an oar. My intro to crypto, where I learned the lesson: not your keys, not your crypto. There was a company called GT Investors, and they reached out to me during the day after my dad passed, and I gave him $10,000. And on the screen, it showed every month that $10,000 was increasing. It increased to $50,000 until I asked for my money, and then it went to zero. I didn't own the keys. They showed me on the screen. Okay, that's the lesson I learned: was you have to own your keys. You have to be in control of your keys at all times. All right, great. So then my first book, I had paid a publisher. I ended up self-publishing. I paid a publisher. I gave her a bunch of money. She wouldn't publish. Her husband was an ICO advisor who was competing with me. So, I finally caught up to her, and she said, "You're going to come up the hard way." Well, since then, it's been the hard way. You have to build a business first before your book gets published. It's not true. I've published a bunch since that had a business or had a failing business. My Gen X book, I said it was a lot of research, right? So I had paid a publisher. I had paid the publisher $16,000. I learned later, don't ever pay a publisher, but I did. And what I didn't do was I didn't check the guy's background. This guy was a publisher of like a Christian or leadership book kind of thing, but he was a convicted felon, and he needed money to pay for his wife's hospitals. And unfortunately, I was the guy who didn't do my due diligence on who he was. And so he had an editor, and every week that editor gave me deep edits. I thought I was done. For half a year, I thought I was done. And every week I got deep edits. So I had to do more, further, and deeper research. It definitely helped improve the quality of the book. The book is great. The edits were worth that $16,000 that I paid. But I got the lesson of, okay, do research on who you're dealing with to begin with. So that was that was a lesson.
Brutal, man. Sorry to hear that.
Brutal. That's all right. And then the latest mistake was I'm a Celsius customer. I could have been a Voyager customer. I could have been a BlockFi customer. It wouldn't have mattered. With these CeFi platforms, I had my DeFi tokens on the CeFi platform. I didn't read the terms of agreement, or I didn't understand them, or both. And that was my fault. I'm still a customer. I don't know how, or I'm stuck being a customer, and that's okay. I don't have anything bad to say about the company. But when you're in this space and you don't know why you're making yield or how you're getting yield, you are the yield. I'm the yield. But what did I learn? I learned how to do DeFi the right way, and it seems like most of the things I've learned are from making mistakes. And there's no book, and we used to date when we were in high school and college and younger, and we made mistakes, and there was no manual. There's no manual, but hopefully through our experiences we can help alleviate the pain of the manual creation for other people, which is and hey, I was neglecting my small cap gems for 2 years, and now I'm not, so that's a benefit.
Yeah, well, those lessons were important to, like you said, to learn. And that's like with anything with financial investing, right? Is if you don't know what you're doing, you have to expect that you're going to lose money along the way for some mistake that just, like you said, you're the yield, right? So makes total sense. I agree. Do your own research out there,
Mm-hmm. And learn the hard way. But once you learn the hard way, you're not going to repeat that mistake. I'm not going to repeat that mistake again. I'll make a different mistake. Sure.
Right. Everything's changing so fast and being built so fast as well. So it's tough to keep up with what you've learned. People thought a cool project is a 10,000 profile picture collection with a community. Now it's so much more than that, and it's been like a year of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's cool to see how everything's just, what I really love about blockchain technology. It's allowing people with very similar interests to align virtually, but still have that in real life community come together opportunities, like the community building. It's almost like I relate it to, like, I'm just in a bunch of clubs in my high school, like with these different collections I'm part of. It's just different clubs in high school almost, so that's sociability. Mm-hmm. But you have a new book coming up that you're looking to launch this fall. And yes, we got to talk about it a little bit. Thanks again for coming to my Meat and Cheese immersive networking event during NFT NYC. Hope you had a good time.
Oh, I did.
Awesome. But you were telling me a little bit about this new book that you're releasing, and it was fascinating.
So over the past, from March 2021 to June 2022, I served as a podcast host with all the podcasts at the Irish Tech News platform. And I interviewed 50 people from 50 different countries, and I built the audience to 165 countries, where we started with 25, before I came on board. That was my
Wow.
goal, to see if I could rebuild AIG, but do it somewhere else, which, I accomplished that. Um, this year, early on, from end of February until April, May, um, 13 or 14 of those podcast interviews were with people in the Ukraine. I interviewed somebody who was building shelters on the front lines. I interviewed two people who were under a bomb building when they were emailing back and forth. I interviewed the minister, the financial minister there, and other people who were supporting Ukraine in the financial efforts and in the technology efforts. And I learned some things, about the potential impact of digital technology and blockchain, and actually building an entire economy, using the technology, which that was the trend. And then I interviewed some artists too, and they were empowered, and they were helping to fund the military with their NFT sales. So if you take all the benefits of blockchain technology, this is a country that, okay, the mainstream media says they're attacked by Russia. Russia's a madman, or Putin's a madman. But I'm talking to people who are, very positive about the future of Ukraine, and who are building on technology. And I'm like, wait a second, no one's telling that story. But I interviewed everybody, and that was a story I got. So that needs to be put into them. You can either listen to all my podcasts, and or I'm putting together this book that explains, what I learned and what they taught me, and I think it's going to be a really interesting read, and a different perspective.
Yes. I mean, it was like their lifeline was blockchain technology for a lot of important resources to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember reading a number of different articles, but you having the access to be able to interview these people while they're going through a war was got to be some kind of an experience you've never had before.
It was eye opening. And then you had mentioned earlier, we talked about the word victim, when, as far as, Celsius, like, or BlockFi, or, Voyager victims. And I'm like, wait a second, a victim is somebody in Ukraine whose house was standing one day and who's bombed. A victim is somebody in Uvalde, or somebody in your neck of the woods, in Illinois, who was a child, who was shot by, they didn't have a choice. If you don't have a choice, you're a victim. If you do have a choice and you have a role in it, you're somebody who has a lesson to learn, and you can learn that lesson and not play that victim card. Rather, choose to be empowered and choose to do something. I'm choosing to do something to talk about the Ukraine, and to move forward powerfully, despite everything else that's happened. That's, I think, is where not only Ukraine but the U.S., where we're really lacking right now, is that making that choice and then choosing to move forward. So I want to make sure that that's a message that we have, that we always have that opportunity.
Yes, choice is number one for us, right? So do you have a working title for the book? I mean, it sounds like it's going to be an amazing read for anyone.
I have, I have, I'm still hoping to learn something, but I think one of the messages that they do in Ukraine is they are trying to build a state in a smartphone. And that's been one of the titles of one of my podcasts, was a state in the smartphone. And it might not look the way they had envisioned originally, but that's definitely what has happened. They built that state.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to reading that. Definitely.
So my
So you had some obviously very eye-opening experiences interviewing the Ukraine guests that are part of your book, but you've also done over 180 podcasts, which is mind-blowing to me, right? We're on episode 4 here. So
right.
do you have any like cool notable stories, or any kind of guests that you would like to tell a story about your experience interviewing all these people?
Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of great people. I've interviewed Tim Draper. I've interviewed Charlie Shrem. I've interviewed Sophie Watts. I've interviewed some amazing, incredible, awesome people. I also interviewed my friend, David Ostracy. He is a artist in Utah. He and I, back in 2007 and 8, we're on a men's organization together. It's a men's leadership, kind of like, we hold each other to account organization. And that's where I get a lot of my leadership skills that I would love to display, going forward. But he created, his company, and he built art, created art. And we used to, volunteer for things together. And it was just really cool to catch up and see what he's done. And he actually created a YouTube video, and I think I even sent it to you, or somebody else I met at your cheese event, which was awesome, by the way. That showed that he created a video on how to mint multiple NFTs on OpenSea. So that was pretty cool to catch up and to learn all about how to do that. And I need to rewatch it because from this day I forgot. I want to take some of my art that I created for my new episodes and mint them. Yeah, that was great. And another woman, Chrissy Smith, she was my first client and friend, and I wrote about her in the book you just bought. And I got to interview her, and she was a client, but she was a XRP millionaire. She bought it a few cents. It went up to $3.20. She called me the week before Christmas. What do I do? I was like, you should get out of that. I didn't know much about it at the time, and she did, and she did well. So, it was good to catch up. And she was at AIG at the same time as me, although she was somewhere else in the country. I have to give her a call one of these days coming up. So it was more like I got to interview famous people, and I learned a heck of a lot. But it was really good to be able to catch up with my friends.
Yeah, that's the best part about this thing is, I've only seen you at NFT NYCs. That's it, But we've had some good experiences for sure. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how, I know you were only down this year at NFT NYC briefly, but what did you get to check out?
Your event. Basically, I came to see you. And before that, we went to see what do you call it, Dennison Bertram's company, and we sat it through there for half a day. Then we went to the Chainlink event, and I got to interview Steph Ishler, RetroCats NFT. Her conversation was amazing, and that was a lot of fun. And then you told me about the Suite app, and I've been a buying machine since then, and like a lot of things on there I learned. And then, the I Create stuff by Steve Campanella, that's incredible. So as a result of those events, I had the opportunity really to expand my knowledge and, network within the NFT realm. Because I had before just been like, I've been in the Litecoin community for a while, and I had, been collecting DeFi tokens, and I've made friends with a whole bunch of altruistic anonymous frogs online for Chainlink. But this was a good way to branch out.
Yes, I love NFT NYC. It's just been both times I met some of the best people ever, and you keep going to these events and the satellite events surrounding the conference, because not a lot of people actually go to the conference. It's more for companies to show their own projects, but the real networking happens at the satellite events. And you see someone on Monday at an event, and then you see them on Tuesday, and you see them on Wednesday, just randomly. By the third time, I mean, you guys are like regular pals, which is what I love about NFT NYC is you're making new friends. You're not expecting much going in. You're like, oh, it's going to be X, Y, and Z outcome. And then you're like, oh, wow, I actually made a bunch of new friends and made some business leads. And I'm excited about the metaverse again, because I got to meet so many innovative, brilliant individuals that are working on things that I could never really comprehend a year or two ago. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I almost forgot you just said that. When we were at the Chainlink event, we were up on the roof, and I'm sitting at this table with people I don't know, and a whole bunch of like high school kids come over, They sit at the table, they start talking to me. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Somebody's talking to me, And it turns out that they were all from the Knowledge Society, and I did a whole entire program, 4 interviews on the Knowledge Society in January. And you talk about people who are pumped up to be enthusiastic and want to be involved and are really smart. They are. So that was good.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that you got to interview all those people. Yeah, that was such a good crowd at the Chain Link event. Great venue. It was a great evening all around for sure.
Yeah.
So you got the book coming out. What else you got going on? You just launched an Apple, Spotify for yourself, right?
Yeah. So go back to I did 182 podcasts, right? And there are some issues in the industry that need to be solved, and hopefully I can solve them. And I'm going to take responsibility and accountability here for not saying no. But I did this podcast and I didn't make a dime. I didn't make a penny. It was volunteer, although I was trying to monetize, right? And I didn't get paid by or anybody, but a lot of the PR firms, they collected a fee. And how I know that? I saw later on their pitch decks. Some of the pitch decks says podcaster fee, right? That podcaster fee never trickled down to me. They pocketed it, So okay, I'm to blame for saying yes to everybody, which I did, But what I learned is, the podcast may be free, but it takes up a lot of my time. And if I calculate the amount of time that it took for me to do all the podcasts I did, I say a month and a half of nonstop work, so 24 hours times 45 days worth of work. I could have made the same amount of money sitting on the beach. Not that I don't mind that, but when PR firms saying you're going to interview my person or else, or make me feel bad because I don't, then I'm like, you know what? The only people who really, really, really deserve my time are my wife and children and some of my closest friends. And I neglected to give them all of my time because I was so busy. So I need to be able to strike a balance between free time for them and monetizing what I do. Because when I started, I didn't realize I was good. I didn't know I was good. And I'm not good because I have a knowledge of everything, blockchain and all this stuff in VC. I'm not a VC. Well, I'd like to be, but maybe someday be an angel investor. I have some skills that I gained over the years to be able to draw out people's thought leadership. And when you're talking to a creative person, getting them to think analytically or to talk to an analytical person and get them to think creatively and do that within a period of 20 minutes, that's a real skill and real value they bring to the table so they can start thinking about that going forward. And they did, and they made money for their businesses. So I brought value to them. And then I learned, I also, when I started, I also stammered a lot. And I also was really nervous and jumbled words. And, whenever I read a page, I, read so fast you couldn't understand what I was saying. So I learned how to speak. So, and getting people to tell their narrative and being able to drive that direction that they go, that's valuable too. So I have to just so what I did, since I did get paid, I'm the owner of the content, since I'm the content creator, I just took the stuff that's on, Irish Tech, and it's still there. I didn't steal anything. It's still there. It's sitting there. You go right now and you see everything I did. I just added it to my platform that I created. So I created a crypto hipster podcast platform. So things are going to be in both locations. And then going forward, the podcasts that I do are going to be on my channel. Both Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Hell yeah, Jameel. I'm glad you got your own content up, man. That was so much work to not get paid for, which is why we got to come up with a badass NFT collection to parlay with it. So guests can purchase them. Yep. I would love to purchase my art from the podcast that you hosted me on. Absolutely.
Great. Well, your podcast is live now. on the Crypto Hipster podcast. So you can go into Apple or Spotify and it's out there. And then there's also the compilation that I put with you is also live. So I added you with some other artists in a Crypto Hipsters Chronicles. I'm going to take all 182 podcasts and I'm grouping them by 4 or 5 15-minute clips and, little pieces, little gems of what we talked about having out there as a key message to what you should listen for and listen to when you choose to listen to the podcast in its entirety.
Awesome. That's such a good idea. Yes, I love it. What is your website? How can we find you?
You can't find me on my website until probably September, but it's going to be cryptohipster.tech. It's still in. I actually had it done. It's been a really, really difficult year. I'm going to get into that a little bit. I had cancer operation in January. Well, it's with Sloan Kettering. I had a desmoid tumor growing that, they said it was gone, but it's back a little bit now. So I have to get another procedure in September. And the next week, as I stayed overnight in the hospital, I ended up getting COVID. So during the week of COVID, I was building my website. Then it got better. Then I stopped for a little bit, but I thought I had it all done. Then everything else happened. April, I had my 4th time to the cath lab for the heart attack. And then end of May, I had some sushi. I'm not going to have sushi anymore. So I got sick from that. And then, so this has been a year of resilience. This has probably been the not the toughest, but the most resilient year I've had in my life. And, right now I'm doing well. I have that upcoming operation, but sometime in September, I'm going to have that website up and out. And then the book will be out shortly thereafter. So at the end of the year, hopefully the business will be running.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you look pretty good, Jameel. When I saw you last month, you look like you're in pretty good health right now, but, we wish you the best as far as, a speedy recovery and
Thank you.
the longevity of life. So, yes. I guess the last question is, what kind of cryptos would you recommend purchasing right now in this bear market?
That's a really good question. I love the suites on the suite app that you introduced me to that I keep buying, and I love the collectibles and I know that they're not that expensive, like $1.99 or $2.99 or some are $9, but I like to collect them. I think since I first met you, I have like 700 or so or more now, which is great. Oh. Yeah. And then this market reminds me a lot of 2018 right now, and Litecoin's halvening. They call it halvening, kind of like Bitcoin's halving, but it occurs every 4 years, and that happened in August 2019. So that's due to come again in August 2023. So you got about a year. People want to load up for a year. You got about a year before that happens again, and the price will go up. Other than that, DeFi works. Aave works. Chainlink works. Other oracles work. Decentraland that exists. It's still there. It works. Engine works. They're building on it. So if you look at the metaverse stuff. Other than that, you got any dice? I could take it up a couple hours to Mohegan Sun and throw some dice on the table.
Yeah, it's just like shooting at a dartboard. Close your eyes. Okay, I'll buy that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So good luck.
Yeah, now's a good time to buy. I've been acquiring a lot of NFTs since the market's been down on multiple blockchains from projects I like. They got the Shark Week NFTs for free. You just scan your TV.
Cool.
They've been doling out about 20,000 of those a day on Discovery Channel. And today's day 3 of 7. So I got the first 2.
Okay. All right. So I just keep my phone and take a picture of the code on screen.
Yeah, that's it. It's usually between 8 and 9 p.m. Central Time. So 9 and 10 Eastern Time for you. Okay. But I want to know about your suite collection. because I've been an advocate of the Suite platform since I want to say April of last year, or maybe March of last year was probably my first collectible on the Suite platform. I only have like 300. So you have definitely surpassed me. But I'll tell you, like, my top item that I own on the platform that I'm most prideful of, and then I hear a bunch of stuff that you own too, real quick, for our clients out there. So Kia had a Super Bowl commercial where they first premiered this little robo dog. You know, it was like a robotic, futuristic little cute dog. And they had a Kia Robo Dog drop of 10,000 units, $20 a piece. All the proceeds, the majority of the proceeds went to charity. And I ended up with Kia Robo Dog number 1 out of 10,000. Because I up early and I tried to buy it 30 minutes early. And they're like, nope, well, you cannot buy it yet. But I guess my request was honored. Because then I bought when it was open to the general public 30 minutes later, and I ended up with number 6 as well.
Okay.
So I did well on that drop.
Awesome. I forget the name of the collection, but Steve Campanella came out with a collection of like characters, like people, the people's names. So they were not supposed to be sold on the app at all, right?
Okay.
And I bought this character named Gary Glenk on the app, and I tried to buy the other one. He said you could only, and I reached out to his team and said, oh, you could only buy it online, like on the desktop. But I had already bought that Gary Glenk in my app, and that's the only one of that whole entire collection that was sold through the app. And I ain't giving it up. He can't have that one back. So I'm gonna keep that forever.
If it's still in your wallet, man, that's awesome. Just you got to hodl.
Yeah, I'm hodling that thing and I got a lot of requests for trade for like different, the other, the Sweet Love Potion and the Coin Cash ones, and I'm like, I'm not trading
that. I know it has such a unique story behind it. Was it Joe Ravioli? Was that?
The Joe Ravioli collection. I think it was that one. But yeah, so there's still a couple others that I want for, but that was the one that I got first, and I'm keeping. That's pretty cool. It's like that keeps me going.
I did just trade for a Macy's Parade Float NFT last week.
Okay.
Because I really wanted one of those. They were gone quick.
I bought all the last 55 ones of his most recent collection. I bought all of them. The what do you call it? Zorgata.
Yes.
I just kept getting all the Zorgatas.
Wow. See, you should have like a special badge or like an award NFT that is like one of 100 people that actually collected all of them. Because you might be one of 100 that actually has them all.
I don't have one. It's the montage. There's one that's a montage with 10 on one card, and I didn't get that in time. But I'm waiting for somebody to send me trade by accident.
You can submit a trade too,
I have.
So. Yeah, well, awesome. I'm really glad that you took the time to speak with me today, Jameel. I kind of look up to you in the space as being an authority and having extreme credibility. And I'm just really glad that we got to connect. And thank you for being my guest on episode 4.
You're very welcome. Definitely welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, man. I will see you soon. I'll see you in the future.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right.